everybody.
Hello, Denise.
With a sweet voice. Hello, Denise.
We do that again. No, I'm just kidding. So welcome to our October 1st Racial Equity Committee meeting. It is 6:01, so we are going to call to order the meeting right now. The September 4th, 2024 meeting minutes. If everyone has had an opportunity to look over them, are there any additions, deletions, assertions, anyone, corrections? Then I will entertain a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from September 4th, 2024.
I move to adopt the meeting minutes from September 4th, 2024.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is the approval of the proposed agenda that everyone has. We have it displayed up there. Once we approve the agenda, we'll have public comment, board member comments, senior staff comments, overview of reporting discrimination, subcommittees, and adjournment. Do I have a motion to accept our proposed agenda for this October 1st, 2024 meeting?
A motion to accept the minutes from October 1st, 2024.
All right, so move. Do I have a second?
A second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. We have our agenda approved. Let us move on to public comment.
We have no public.
All right. Seeing no public comment, we will keep it moving and we will get to the board member comments.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all on this dreary day. Hopefully the sun is going to come out again. Being here. So for my comments tonight, I'm just going to focus on the fact that we had our Racial Equity Committee present at the board meeting last week. So thank you to everybody who was in attendance and able to support. And I know that many of you probably watched from home, but I think that Denise and Camille and Michelle did a really excellent job of representing the work of the committee over the past year. We were able to share the policy 117 anti-racism video with the board and the public at that meeting as well. And I think really hit the highlights of what this committee has been working on and the goals that you all have set for the upcoming year. We also have, I actually don't know if we've gotten additional applicants in, but shared during last board meeting that we did put out the call for more students to apply in this committee. And as of last week, we had 43 applicants, student applicants to participate in this committee. So the application closed on September 30th. And so now I'm not sure if
56, I believe.
Really? That is incredible. Hey!
So I suppose that the selection committee needs to reconvene and do some work around deciding which additional students will join us. And then hopefully we'll be able to share the SOCA experience with those who are not selected to serve on this committee. And hopefully that will increase our participation in SOCA as well. But really nice job to our fearless leaders for presenting, and I think the ask from the Board of Ed in terms of support around raising FCPS community awareness around the forums, the opportunities to engage. I think that charge is a good one for the board to be aware of and making sure that we can really get the community aware and participating in the forums and additional opportunities to engage. So just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. And thank you for the work that this committee is going to continue to do. That's it.
Thank you, Ray. We'll go with our student rep, Elijah Steele, please.
I appreciated the presentation in the education meeting, and I had no clue how many students applied. Me personally, I'm looking forward to joining SOCA this year. I could have last year, but I was a little busy, but hopefully this year I'll have time. You know, it's like I'm even busier now, but I still manage to find time. So I look forward to working with everyone on SOCA when I join, and getting to be able to experience that. So I appreciate the presentation very much, and look forward to today's meeting.
Thank you. All right. And with that, we will move on to our senior staff comments.
So I'll go ahead and start and then turn it over to Dr. Artis. First of all, Scott Murphy sends his regrets. He's unable to make it tonight because of a previous evening commitment. But nonetheless, he just wanted me to share that. Then also, I want to echo Ms. Gallagher's comments relative to the presentation to the board. It was exceptional and it was outstanding, and it really highlighted the collaborative nature of what this committee was designed to do. And that's really given impact and a voice to some of the work that we're doing in the school system relative to our policies, regulations, and practices. And so that really came through. And the superintendent and cabinet wanted me to express to the committee, again, how much they enjoyed and appreciated the presentation. I would ask that at a meeting coming up, there was some discussion relative to the community forum. And I'm hoping that we can have a robust conversation at a meeting coming up soon relative to the forum. The purpose, what we want, you know, what we hope to see, so that we can really target our advertisement and things like that, so we can hopefully get a really good crowd out.
Is this for the April?
This is for the April one, yeah, but if we can, you know, start sooner than later, it would be good, and just say, here's what we're gonna be discussing, and so we can really get community groups out relative to that. So other than that, we're looking forward to just very briefly sharing an overview of our various ways of reporting for discrimination in the system, and then just share some of the ongoing work. So, Dr. Artis?
So I echo the sentiment, so thank you for your presentation. It was engaging, and I think that left a lot of people thinking and wanting to be involved, and just looking to see how they can better support this group, so thank you. The only announcement I do have is a save the date for our MLK celebration. So that went out to our administrators this past week, and the date is on Tuesday, January 14th at 7 p.m., and that will be at Thomas Johnson High School. Our theme this year is everybody can be great because everybody can serve. And so this year we're focusing on service and giving back through service. And so we're planning a good time to celebrate our MLK winners. Yes, ma'am.
What time did you say?
7 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
So we start promptly at 7 p.m. and it'll be over no later than 9, but typically 8:30, we run a tight ship there, so.
Yes, they do.
So 7, maybe 8:30 the latest, but we say 7 to 9. When you see the posters, it'll say 7. So on Tuesday, I know traditionally we've had it on Thursday, but this year it's a little bit of a change, so it'll be on Tuesday, January 14th, so. If you were able to make it, please, and we sent the save the days out in regard to what Dr. Harris said, just trying to make sure everyone's aware of it as soon as possible, so.
All right.
That was all my announcements.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, one more time, can you tell me what the theme is?
The theme is everybody can be, it's a quote from Dr. Okay. So everybody can be great because everybody can serve.
Thank you.
So our focus is on service. And the snow day, just in case you want to know that too, is January 28th.
All right. That is all. Then we give the floor back to you, Dr. Harris.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, you know what? You can give it to her. Carrie will start. Let me pull this presentation up.
Good evening, committee. So tonight, Dr. Harris and I, we're going to give you an overview of reporting discrimination in FCPS. So tonight's presentation really is an overview, and we're not going to get down into the weeds and the details of the processes that we've kind of outlined and how it happens, but rather a broad overview of the reporting and what has been updated, especially this school year when it comes to reporting acts of discrimination. So for today, our 2 outcomes, provide an overview, and then we'll share about the ongoing work when it comes to reporting acts of discrimination. So we wanted to just ground this in a discussion or listening about what discrimination actually is. And so I'll give you a moment to read that definition on your own. So this is a definition for discrimination that's outlined in BOE Policy 309. And so just wanted to highlight the 2 primary aspects of this definition. So this applies to both students and their education environment. It applies to employees in their work environment, but I also want to draw your attention to the fact that it applies to others who may be accessing programming on FCPS property. So students, staff, but also community members that might be on FCPS property. So when we're talking about reporting, this overview, there are 2 main stakeholder groups that we're going to talk about today. So we're going to start off with our students and how we use the bullying, harassment, intimidation form, also the hate bias form, and also I'll do a quick overview of the Title IX form that we have also in place for FCPS. And then Dr. Harris will wrap up with going over the process for employees, applicants, and community members. All right, so first let's discuss the process for reporting discrimination for our students. So Board Policy 117, as this group has been integral in having that policy implemented, it outlines the reporting expectations for acts of racism in FCPS. So although today we're talking about discrimination, this really does ground our work and the expectations of reporting throughout our system. As you can see, the reporting expectations include 2 basic elements. So first, the board directs the superintendent to enact and continuously improve the means and methods that students, parents, families, and staff have to report incidents of racism. And secondly, it's about signage and about accessibility. So for every school and workplace should have consistent signage and reporting tools accessible in multiple languages for people with disabilities. And this Policy 117 reporting standard is pretty much what we use for all discrimination reports. As far as our reporting methods in FCPS, so this year, FCPS has 3 ways to report acts of discrimination dealing with students. This year, each method of reporting has been made accessible electronically. All 3 forms are accessible to students, parents, families, teachers, and staff, and basically the public. They can all access all 3 of these forms now and report acts of discrimination. So this first form that you see highlighted here is the bullying, harassment, and intimidation form. This is the form that I think we most are familiar with. And this form is used to report acts of discrimination that deal with bullying, harassment, or intimidation, dealing with student-to-student incidents. This form, however, does require that the reporter does know the name of the offender and the name of the victim in order to be able to submit this form. The next form to report discrimination, of course, is our Title IX form, and this form is available to report sex discrimination, including sex-based harassment, sex-based violence, and unwelcome sex-based conduct. And this school year, we have implemented a new hate bias reporting form. This form should be used to report discrimination acts of hate against a protected class. This form, unlike the bullying form, does not require that the reporter knows the identity of the offender or the victim. And this is so important because, for example, when we get reports of there being a symbol of hate or a slur, for example, a swastika written in the bathroom stall, previously we didn't really have a way to report that, but now under hate bias reporting, because we don't know the offender or don't have a specific individualized victim, the hate bias form is a way that people can make those reports to school administration. So these electronic forms are a step forward in our effort to continuously make improvements for the means and methods of reporting for all of our stakeholders. So for this, no matter which form you use, the next step after making a report is going to be for a school-based administrator or supervisor, whoever the appropriate staff is, to do an investigation and to follow up with the reporter to the extent that's allowed by law. So I want to make this clear. So no matter which report form someone uses to report discrimination, all three forms will result in an investigation and result in follow-up from the appropriate staff member. And for this, this is our current website, and when you go to fcps.org, you'll see on the bottom right-hand corner, it'll say like stop bullying or something to that effect. Right now, this form is accessible on our website. So while the other forms, so Title IX and our hate bias forms are accessible electronically via shared links and by schools and teachers and administrators, we have still not yet updated the website to reflect the hate bias or the Title IX form. We want to make that mention. The forms have been translated into Spanish, and we are working to, of course, update the website. And again, I want to just emphasize, regardless of which form is being used, it does result in an investigation and report. Sorry. Yep.
Yes, so if the hate bias and the Title IX forms aren't accessible on our website, are they searchable? Like if somebody experienced an incident and needed to go make a report, can they search someplace and find the form, or it has to be shared at the school level?
Has to be shared on the school level right now. So eventually we're hoping to have a website that has like all three reporting mechanisms on one landing page, but we have not got that updated. So I can say right now, typically, and different schools handle it differently. Some schools, especially our equity reps, have used QR codes throughout the school, and they have them posted throughout the school for students to access it. Some teachers have shared it on the Schoology page under their resources, but right now it's on a school by school sharing the link. But we have not yet updated the website.
Yeah, our public affairs, they are working on it right now. And so, and again, if you fill out a form, even if it's the bullying form, the investigator, the administrators will determine, is this bullying, harassment, intimidation, is it hate bias, is it Title IX, and follow the appropriate processes.
And is the Title IX form the same for employees? That is available on our website.
Different. Yeah, and I
Different
will-
form, okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
These forms, if a student has a complaint about a staff member, teacher, something, is that the same form that they would use to file for discrimination against them or sexual harassment? Or it's not another student against a student, it's a student and against a teacher?
Yeah, so typically what we tell when people are asked that question, the student can fill the form out and report it. Because the big thing is, this is a reporting form, which is triggers an investigation. So it is a way for the students or community member to say, this is happening, this is my experience, I want an administrator to look into it. So for a student, if it's an issue with the staff member, then you can fill the form out, and then the admin will look into it and make the determination.
And depending upon the nature of it, may go straight to human resources to investigate. Yeah.
So is this something that the students know where to go? Like, okay, so it's something at the beginning of the year, this is information to the schools?
So yes,
I mean, I was gonna say every school is probably very different. Sorry. At our school, I have my QR code up everywhere, and so they know that the forms are like, so that they can do it. But I don't know, I mean, it wasn't rolled out in any certain way to students.
so we're, towards the end, we're talking about things we're working on, and so that's part of like the second phase of what the reporting requirements are, is consistent signage throughout the schools. And there's the multiple languages. So we got the multiple languages down, and so now that we have the languages down, right now, we are working on getting the consistent signage throughout all the schools.
I understand.
That's not yet done, so just fully acknowledging that that is yet not accomplished, so the consistent signage in schools. But as Meredith said, like right now through our equity reps, many of them have shared resources amongst the equity reps, and the equity reps have taken the lead honestly in our schools and sharing the information as needed.
All right, sounds good.
And hard copies of it being picked up in guidance or all of it?
Yeah.
have a question.
Okay,
Oh,
go right on.
well, so I'm just wondering in terms of tweaking how we're reporting, have we thought about that? Because just thinking about it, a lot of the forms that I have gone through this year, no name, don't know who the person is, they heard the N-word, right? So in order to address it, you can't really address it. When we have specific, like today I received one with with specific students, specific names, specific incidents, that's something else. So I'm curious on how we're gonna correlate the data if we are reporting every time two African-American boys are having a conversation amongst themselves and saying the N-word versus someone identifying a student of color and discriminating against, because that's two different, in my opinion, it's two different collection points of data.
Yeah. You wanna-
Absolutely, it is two different points, and so I know, and then we're offering clarity right now. But I will say, right now, the reporting form is just that it reports it, and that's why I keep emphasizing that. So as you as the administrator, you'll get the report, and then you'll use your professional discretion in how you are going to follow up with it, meaning in the SIS or the student discipline or whatever it might be. On the other side, Camille, some of the feedback that we heard is like things are said and heard. We don't know who said or who did it, so but we still want to be able to report to the school that it happened. And so there is a challenging gray area, if you will, when it comes to that, because if I hear it being said behind me, I'm impacted, but I don't know which person behind me said it. So it does provide at least a way for the school to say, you know what, we're having a problem with people saying whatever the slur is too frequently. And it does provide a school a way to say, like, maybe we should do something more proactive or responsive to it. But when it comes to discipline, as the administrator, professional discretion is for sure.
I have a follow-on question to that. After that, and maybe you're gonna go through this, after that reporting is gathered and they get the form, is that all being aggregated and collected? Because where I would see it being a value is that over time, does it decrease?
Right.
Right.
Like, you're starting to create that data points to say, okay, we don't know who did it, but over time, those reports should lessen because it's not happening if everything is working effectively.
Yeah, we meet on a regular basis with various stakeholders in different departments. As we're hearing feedback, we're constantly iterating our data collection, what the reporting is, the very thing that you brought up, Dr. Bell, because you will have students who, just on a casual basis, they're friends, they're using inappropriate language. And so is that hate bias? No. Is it appropriate? No. And do we address it? Yes. It does not necessarily need to be addressed through a hate bias form because it did not intend, there was no intent of harm or bullying or intimidation or anything. But what we tell staff is that you must stop, interrupt, educate, question. You still have to address it.
I think we probably, I would suggest that we reiterate that again.
Yes.
Because what we have been told is every time you hear it in the air, you need to fill out this form, which drives me absolutely crazy because, we're getting these forms, but they're not identifying anybody. And I say this is a hate bias form. Is there bias in this? Is there hate in this? So I'm like, is there a way that we can identify the frequency of inappropriate language across the board and deal with that systemically versus filling out a form that's saying this is hate bias when in fact it may not be?
Yeah.
Just kind of scrubbing that data down
Yes.
would be helpful.
Yeah, and as you're pointing out, there's a difference between reporting and actual cases, so you'll see some differences there, and then also what you're talking about as well. And so if you didn't get a chance to see the message last week that we sent out, I can send it out to you again, where we sent some clarifying information out about that to administrators about that. So we'll definitely do that again for you.
Dr. Bell, to even emphasize the continuous improvements, like we are taking that very seriously, right?
Yeah.
So I think this we can talk to, but there's an upcoming day when we do have office hours just to get feedback from our school-based administrators. We plan that this week, actually.
Oh, good.
So if you saw in the wrap-up, you'll see that we have office hours available this week for our school-based administrators to kind of go back and ask us questions, clarifying questions, and to get more with that. But it is a continuous process for improvement. And to go back what you said about data, so we're starting somewhere. So this is new for us, and we are looking through this process to see how it can be improved, how it should be improved, and we're absolutely more than welcoming of any feedback and how we can make practice improvements.
And, so we have the gamut of reporting, and one of the things that you mentioned was that anytime they hear anything, they report. On one hand, the good thing about that is that they're taking it seriously. And so now we have to give some balance to all of that and help them. Here's how you address it whenever you hear it and you know that there's no intended impact. But if whenever in doubt, fill it out. I just came up with that.
Put that off in your
A
bones.
little bit like see something, say something.
Yes.
Fill it out.
Well, and like I'll speak for my school only, but our No Place for Hate committee on Fridays for the announcements is doing like a education little PSA, I guess. The more you know, and so they're going to tackle things like that. If you hear somebody say the N-word, tell an adult. If you know what I mean, or call it out if you feel safe doing so. So I mean, like it's all working together. So I mean, I know you guys are, but you've done so much already. So
Again, it's new.
It
It's
is.
new. So we're working out some of those kinks in the process for sure.
Yeah, Elisha.
I have a question. Is it reported when a student of that ethnicity says that speech, like, is it also carried out? So let's say a black student wants to say that word, would it be followed out? Or if, like, a student of a different ethnic descent said a slur pertaining to their ethnic origin, would it be still followed out, like, to another student of the same ethnic origin?
And so that's the thing. And so you might have, so one, is it intended to cause hate or harm or bias or discrimination regardless of your ethnicity, background, race? Then absolutely yes. Now, the example that we were talking about before, let's say you have two students of the same culture, heritage, background, and the conversation that they will have outside of the school environment, they're talking to each other using what we consider to be inappropriate language. And so the key there is to stop that conversation, to interrupt, to educate, and hopefully that is it. But let's say that they persist, then we're going to move forward with reporting and investigating. And it's different at each level as well, Sometimes you might get kindergarten, first grade students who really don't know what they're saying. That's different than a senior who's been in school for 12, 13 years who know exactly what they're saying and the intent and the impact that it could have.
Can I add to that, Elijah? So I think part of also some of the discussions I've had with administrators, this is not a gotcha for adults or students. I mean, it really is an opportunity to help educate our students and our staff as well about the appropriateness of language and gestures and symbols and all of those things. And so, if there are students that are within the same culture using certain language at school, it's just like, this is not the appropriate time and place for that, right? It's not, I don't want it to seem as like we're gonna throw the book at them and the hammer. It's just really a time for learning about school-appropriate language and school-appropriate interactions. And so I just want us to just be assured that that's really the emphasis that we're trying to have with a lot of these student reports. There are consequences as well, especially when you do intend it to be hate-filled or you do intend it to be ostracizing. However, it's not at all intended to be a gotcha for students. It's a chance to learn.
All right, so that was students. Now let's talk about staff, applicants, community members, because there are some similar types of processes. And so we reference policy 309 again. And, you know, the board's policy statement on discrimination and harassment is very clear. We want to make sure that we treat each other with respect and accept the diversity that makes up our school system and community, and disrespect is not tolerated. And so there are multiple ways that employees, applicants, community members can resolve or address issues of discrimination. There's an informal resolution process, there's bullying, harassment, intimidation, Title IX, and then also there's fraud and waste as well. So with the informal resolution type of process, basically, if they're comfortable, they can speak with the supervisor to informally address whatever the concern is. If they're not, and they just want to address it informally, there also is a form on our website that they can fill out. It will go to Human Resources, and that situation will be addressed in an informal manner. Because maybe it made the employee, applicant, community member feel uncomfortable. Maybe they felt as though there was no real intent, but yet this shouldn't continue. But if there was an intent, if there was bullying, harassment, intimidation, there's a formal process there that includes reporting, and when it involves staff members, community members, applicants, then that's investigated through Human Resources. And there's a report form on our website that can be completed, submitted to Human Resources. Title IX, or sexual harassment, of course, is prohibited, and we have a Title IX coordinator for our school system, and so that form or complaint goes straight to our Human Resources Title IX coordinator to address those situations. And the same thing with student reporting. When the report is made, there's an investigation that ensues, and then there are findings and follow-up and whatever appropriate measures that need to be taken. Outside of discrimination and harassment and bullying and all of those things, our board goals and our superintendent goals talks about using our resources wisely. There's not much to go around, and so we want to use the resources that we have appropriately. And so we do have a way to report fraud, waste, and abuse. If you're comfortable, you can speak with the supervisor. If not, we have a fraud hotline that employees can anonymously report, or you can report to our Associate Superintendent of Fiscal Services, who will address the matter. So all of these are 4 different ways that our employees and those adults who interact in our school system can address some things. The overall priority here from a board standpoint, from a superintendent and staff standpoint, is the fact that we want our student and our staff experience to focus on ensuring their safety, their well-being, and to making sure that they can show up as their authentic selves to learn, work, and thrive in environments free of discrimination, harassment, bullying, etc. And what we always tell our staff, and our schools regularly have to engage in this as well, is a review of their school culture data. Every year, there are surveys that go out to staff, to students, as well as to the community that gives us information relative to the culture of the school. What are their feelings and perceptions about the culture? To what degree do they believe racism exists within the schools? To what degree do they feel safe or have a safe adult? Do they believe that these things can be addressed? And so when we get those results from our informal survey, all schools and all central office departments are expected to review the data with their teams or staff and take efforts to make improvements to that whole school culture. I would be remiss, I need to pause right here, because whether we're talking about students or whether we're talking about staff, at any time, students, staff, community members can go to our trusty, well-informed ombuds for support and for guidance on resolution to different situations. So there she is. She can help out, and she does a great job with supporting staff and families through problem solving some of their concerns. Just some of the ongoing work, we talked about it a little bit. We're working with public affairs to really update our websites to make sure all of these forms are updated and available and easily accessible. Translating our forms, we just got finished translating many of the forms into Spanish, which is our next most predominant language in the school system. There's signage in different ways that's communicated throughout the schools, but now we're working on some consistency throughout all of our schools. And as I said earlier, we meet on a regular basis with our data department, with our school administrators, with our directors, student services on a very regular basis to continually receive feedback and evaluate our processes and make improvements. So that's what we have for today.
Did anyone have any other, I know we did a lot of questions along the way. Did anyone have any other questions before we move along in the agenda? Going once?
All right, I'll ask a question. I just took this harassment thing in my job today, so it's on my mind. So when you fill out the report, does it go to a central office, and is it an independent from the school who does the investigation?
Yes. Yes, yeah, when we're talking about employees and community members, applicants, it goes to Human Resources independent of the school.
Yeah, I was asking because I know one of the things I went through today was retribution, but if it's someone that's independent. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
You had mentioned in the presentation, I believe, that there's a specific person that handles Title IX.
Yes.
And that's the independent person that it goes directly
That's
to.
the independent person for Title IX.
And that's the same for
That's the Director of Human Resources. Yeah.
all the forms go there? Or just the Title IX?
Definitely for Title IX.
Okay.
There is a specific email address that many of these other forms go to for the human resource person.
For the informal resolution, it goes to HR Labor Relations.
Okay.
For the fraud waste, it goes to our financial or ethics panel, depending, it can go
Okay.
in different directions. And bullying, harassment, and intimidation, again, I believe goes back through HR.
Yeah.
And it's a designee, usually is who.
Okay, so if somebody is doing the hate bias, and I know that we had talked about this before we got to this point, but do you get those reports, do they go through admin and then admin sends someone, or is that if there's a report, you know it happened regardless of whether admin tells you or not?
So do we get a copy of the report?
That's one of the
hate bias things that come in?
We have, yes, we have
Yes.
access to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would be able to see?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
Can I-
when someone fills it out, like somebody fills it out the school-based level, I'm not sure if everybody, I feel like almost everybody in the school sees this form. But I know we all get it, the admin team, but I feel like other people get it too, because they're like, these forms are coming.
So, just as far as process, right? So it's handled in the exact same way. the information shared for the bullying form, honestly. So, so when the bullying form is submitted and filed, there's basically an email that's triggered to the administrative team and whoever the principal has identified as a designee to receive those reports. Some schools, it might be a counselor. Some schools, it's like just the admin team. It depends who the principal has designated. And the same thing is for the hate bias form. The reporting back to the school is the exact same for the bullying form. So the same team at the school that receives the report for bullying is the same team that receives the report for hate bias.
I guess what I think you're asking.
How does the
is-
report get to you?
Yeah, what I think we're asking is on the back end, when that form gets submitted, is it all going into a database and data is being collected that can be looked at over time, regardless of how emails are being sent? Is it going into a database that somebody can?
Yes.
That's the,
I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, and what we do, and again, we're working on our processes, but we get those forms and we look for trends, where the forms are. We make sure that, okay, there's an investigation that's being followed through, all of those things. And so we use it, one, proactively in the sense of if we're seeing trends or reports from a lot of reports from different schools, then we will work with the instructional director, lean into that administrative team in that school and say, hey, we're noticing that there are a lot of reports here.
That makes me feel
Let's
better.
talk about it.
Okay.
And then also, if it helps us to take a look at, real egregious things that, we need some additional central office leaning in.
And for our office, Meredith, especially with professional development, professional
Yes.
learning, it's like, okay, where do we need to put some emphasis for our staff? Like moving forward as we do our modules and as we do some professional learning. So where do we see the need the greatest? So it helps them to inform that work.
You mentioned that any form is used for the reporting process to at least report. How is it determined whether it's bias, online, or bullying, harassment, or none of the above based upon the investigation? Is that determined by the administrator or the person doing the investigation, and then that data is aggregated, or is it based upon the person who completed that form, how they felt?
It's a little both. So when it comes to reporting, whoever reports, however they report it, that's how that reporting form will be documented. But once the investigator has done the investigation, they'll make a determination. So even if you file the report as hate bias, for example, the report, once the investigation is done, part of that investigation report to finish the investigation, the investigator basically says, and I forgot the exact terms, but it says like deemed to be hate bias, or deemed to be bullying, or not deemed to not be. I forgot exactly how the phrasing is, or deemed to be something else. Where maybe it's like Dr. Harris mentioned, like it's not hate bias, it may not be bullying, but it's inappropriate language. So the investigator at the end will decide where this actually should live and stay.
One thought, regarding the signage and stuff. I don't know how, you can go to a website, scan a QR code to report it. I don't know how easy this would be to execute, but one thought would be to have a link on Schoology. You have Schoology, and then it'll.
So I want to address this because I know you're a new member. This was actually a discussion that we had last year.
I'll keep my mouth
And
shut.
no, that's not why I said that. To be clear, that's not the reason why I brought it up. I brought it up because I was a new member of the committee and I said, how is it this stuff is getting reported? And we had a robust discussion, which is what led to this. I just wanted to give a shout out to you guys for hearing what we said and actually making the changes very rapidly, actually, because we knew that we had a form. And at the time, that's really all it was a form. And one of the things I said is kids are on Schoology all the time getting their stuff. Kids are using phones, they need QR codes, and it needs to be on Schoology. And that was one of the things where they were like, oh, yeah, we got that. And that was one of the immediate change. And you hear reporting from teachers now that this is routinely what we use at the school is QR codes. Yes, it is available in Schoology. I have it posted all around my classroom. So that was something that had come up. So that's how new it is that your question came up last year, and that's how we got here. And so they're continuing, and I think moving very rapidly in finding a way to make sure that this gets out to everybody. It's getting reported in all the ways that it, or getting PR'd in all the ways that it can in order for reporting to cast a wider net to have the reporting come in.
I would wonder if there's, just because I'm laughing at being at the lower end, we don't use Schoology in elementary school. Our elementary school doesn't use Schoology. I know my kid has an account, but until I think 5th or 6th grade, it's not a thing in our life. We have 4 other ways we get information though. One is talking points, and I guess each school has different apps or whatever they use, but getting that out to the lower grade families to say, like, here are your options and there's this form, because it's not, like, if it's posted in Schoology, I'm not gonna see it till 5th grade. Like, so thinking through what that looks like for the lower elementary, yeah. And my kid doesn't have a phone and take pictures of the QR code, right?
Thank you.
I know, right?
Excuse me.
So if that is all, we will move on in the agenda. Wait, you are done, you presentation.
Huh?
We're done. We're finished.
Okay.
Yes, we're done.
I did not want to get ahead of myself. We're done, so we're going to keep moving. No. So thank you for that, Dr. Harris and Dr. Ardes. We are going to move now to subcommittees. All right, people, this is where y'all get to jump in.
So I have emailed you all a Google form that I need you to fill out. There are 3 big ticket items for us this year.
But do not fill it out now. We want you to pay attention. Please.
Pretty sure I'm not a teacher. That was good.
I'm like, no.
Checking if my phone still has battery.
So we have some work that we're focusing on with SOCA, and one of them is creating an SOP, a standard operating procedure. So we have this wonderful student organization, and we are now moving from complete grassroots to now putting some things in place, so that they know, like, what does their transition plan look like when they have their young membership? Are we requiring training? These types of things. We need to kind of think that through, and I think a subcommittee for that work would be great. The other subcommittee would be the community forum. So as Dr. Harris said, we want to start thinking about that. So the community forum is a subcommittee for this year. And the last one, and they're all immediate because we need to start working on them now, is the student selection committee, because we have over 50 applicants for 3 positions. So I sent out a Google form, and it just asks you to indicate your first choice, your second choice, and your third choice. And once I have that information, I will gather the information and then send out a list of what subcommittees you've been placed on. The biggest thing is the subcommittees are gonna need to meet and start the work. So that's independent from this meeting. We'll probably identify someone to lead the subcommittee and take charge of, working with the groups to come up with meeting dates and such. And then when we come back in our next meeting, we will slate time for the subcommittees to report out. So what I'm asking for is by our next meeting, which is what, November 13th, I think? I don't know why that's the date in my head. But, so in our November meeting, hopefully we will have, our subcommittees will have met on November the 13th. They will have met, and then we can start reporting on it. Any thoughts on that? Go ahead, babe.
Well, Dr. Artis says she wants to serve on all 3.
Well, I'm feeling set up coming. Set up coming. I know this family
We
very well.
anticipated that and actually had your name in pencil on all 3.
For
Okay.
clarification, that is not what I said.
Do that either.
Let's be clear. I just said, do you only need help with one committee? So is each person only going to do one subcommittee is what my question was.
No. The reason that so they're going to be ranked 1, 2, 3. Some of the committees are going, for example, the student member selection committee is going to need to start ASAP, and the more the merrier. As that's likely going to be led by me, I'm guessing.
Absolutely.
Because I was the one that did the selection committee otherwise. So so that we can jump right back in, yeah, I would everyone that previously served, that would be fantastic, but the reality is the more the merrier for that, and that's going to be a very immediate committee. SOP, the SOP committee for SOCA is going to be a little longer term. Even longer term, obviously, is community forum, but the work does need to begin now so that the foundational stuff is set. And because there's going to be, I'm anticipating, significant, fairly significant interaction with your office as we align what we're going to do and make sure that everything is, that it's in harmony with what's been happening so that we keep the overreaching arc and continue in the direction that we want to go, and along with the things that are being reported from your office. So there's, you know, there's now,
Your SOP
there's a little
leader
later,
is Monique Russell.
further down the road.
Your SOP subcommittee leader. The community forum will be myself, and the selection committee will be Denise. And as soon as the selection committee is over, we're taking all of the people and putting them on another committee.
Which will likely be community forum. That is,
So, and a question I have, because you talked about SOP, but in terms of SOCA, it almost sounds like you need, like, there's 3 subcommittees there. There's the general helping for the kids, the SOP, and then the events planning, like.
So the general.
Are there different
So-
subcommittees there, or is
No,
it?
For SOCA, the biggest thing right now is creating some guidelines for them. Michelle and I work very closely with the students. I mean, the more the merrier is my thing. And we talked about, and it says events up there, but I actually meant to change that because one of the culminating things that we're talking about, and you know, that's again working very closely with the equity office, is connecting SOCA with what I call one of the big ticket events that we have that identify students of color in this district. So that's what I was thinking about. The children are creating some events, you know, throughout the county. Of course, we have our issue with if the children can't get there on their own, how are they going to get there? So we have that we're trying to work through. But the biggest thing is sitting down and creating some guidelines, and I'm sure we're going to have to sit down, have Monique and sit down with Dr. Artis and Dr. Harris to kind of get some guidance. We do have monthly meetings, so we have that one coming up, so we'll be talking about that there. Because I will say I've never written an SOP for a school district, so that's good. What'll probably happen is that the work that this committee will do will then be submitted to the school district, to the Board of Ed, and then they will do what they do, because nothing that you write gets untouched around here, I'm just telling you. Don't get married to
I
anything.
work for the government, I get it.
Don't get married to anything. Okay. Dr. Harris always has a pen on deck.
yeah, but to just keep in mind that because of the way these committees are, you know, obviously SOCA is an ongoing thing, so that's something that you can be involved in throughout the year. Community Forum is further down the road. It is in April, so it's a longer term goal. Student selection is we need it yesterday. So depending on your availability, and if you know that you're not so available right now, maybe you're going to be more available a little later, or literally just interest level. We can something for everyone. We can accommodate you. So, but just keep that in mind and know you are not wedded to just one. Never do you do just one subcommittee.
But I think that, I mean, this work with our subcommittees will kind of catapult us this year, because it's directly involved with some of our own personal goals that we have for the committee. So,
And keep an open mind, because this is not stagnant. It may very well be that we create more subcommittees, or we break off within them. So there will be plenty of work. Remember, many hands create light work. So just be ready to roll your sleeves up and jump in.
Any thoughts?
Question, community forum. I think I know what it is, but not 100% sure.
So our community forum is when we, the Racial Equity Committee, we will host an event where we will educate the community about the work that's being done around issues of racial equity in Frederick County. Oftentimes, if we have participants, they will share their stories and some of the things that they have gone through. Oftentimes, community members will ask for certain things. Like one year, they were very detail about why do we not have the Black and African American Studies course, why is it not a requirement, and why is it not in middle school, things like that. So we listen very intentionally, and then we take that information back to our equity partners, and we do the work with them. And we try to kind of tailor what we're doing to like big ticket community interests. We just listen for the overarching themes and then put that to work. The goal for the community forum is we want to get, let me go back a little bit. The very first community forum happened 3 years ago. There was a huge racial incident that happened at, I think it was Middletown Middle School, Middletown.
Oh, yeah.
And it was bad. So as a result, this committee, the Racial Equity Committee, hosted a community forum. At that time, it was heavily attended because there was this issue and everybody had something to say and they felt a certain way, and the committee just kind of sat and listened, took notes and that kind of stuff. The next year, we did the forum again, but it wasn't wrapped around a racial incident. So we had a decent amount of people that came out. They came out, they listened, they participated, they gave feedback. That year I took copious notes at that forum, and then we were able to translate those notes to the equity office, and then again, we worked with them to identify those goals.
They presented, equity office presented.
Yeah, they presented at the second one. The third one was this past March, and it was not very well attended. And the information that we were given, again, picked up on the needs that the community had, some of the questions that they had, and that was all built into the presentation. However, most of the people who were at the forum were rec members and staff members, like directors.
The choir
and senior.
attended
Yeah.
the sermon.
Yeah.
So, which was, for me, it was just heartbreaking because there was so much work that went into getting ready for that presentation.
And there was such excellent, in my opinion, there was such excellent information provided, things that people had, because the equity office had addressed some of the issues that came up from the first community forum that had sparked so much interest from the community, and then the work that informed the Racial Equity Committee and what we had done, and then there was a push through of the policy and the regulations of the policy, and so there was all of this progressive work, and so it was this wonderful sort of see how we're getting this, how we've begun to start this, and there was not nearly enough people there to see the fruits of this 3+ years of labor, which is my lament. And the reason why we made the appeal that we did, that Ray mentioned with her board report, to the board, that we've got to do something to make sure that the community is better informed sooner about the community forum, so that everybody is getting that information, because it has been a wonderful progression, and they do need to see that it is progressing. There's nothing better than knowing that you said something, here you're thinking that nobody heard it, and in fact there's actually been all of this action as a result of it. And so we just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to ensure that the community is finding out. So that is what the community forum is about.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that you said there were 50 students that applied to be on the committee. How many students will you be selecting?
3.
Yikes.
3.
Yeah.
Yowza.
Yeah. Angels on the head of a pin.
So I'm wondering if, for those who are not selected, if there's a way that we can automatically say, here's how you can be engaged.
Oh,
Linking them up with SOCA.
absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, no. I've already planned that.
Yeah.
And
We're not,
sending out
because
all
if
the
you've
emails.
put your application in, we've got a hook in your mouth and we want to keep you. Because these are kids that are interested and we have to find a way to continue to get them involved. And certainly with the more robust approach that SOCA's already taken for the year, I think it's going to be very easy to infuse more kids into that. So that was the first thing that went through my head when I heard the number of applicants was, oh yes, how are we going to keep them? So.
Any other questions? All right, you all have been wonderful this evening.
All right. Well, with that, it is 7 p.m. This is what efficiency will get you. I'm just saying. And with that, so yes, time of death, 7 p.m. We will adjourn. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move that we
You can
adjourn.
say so moved. I mean, if you,
Okay, fine, so moved.
She's on rare.
Can I get a second?
She's on
I
rare.
second it.
All right, all those in favor of adjournment? Opposed, nay? Abstentions? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. We will see you November 13th.